I remember this, just vaguely. Pause. I was little at the time, maybe 7. Gentle tone. In my old house. My room had its own floor. Slightly amused. It wasn't even supposed to be a bedroom. More like an attachment to the attic. Or a closet-type room. Slight pause. Neutral tone. The people that own the house. Before us. The people who lived there used it as a playroom for their daughters. Pause. My room also had this huge closet door that was attached to the attic. Slightly uneasy tone. The closet was elevated, so you'd have to climb a little set of wooden stairs to get into it. It had this big sliding door, and it was completely packed, with toys and other junk from my childhood. Quietly, almost like a child remembering. Since I was little at the time, I always got scared. Scared of being so separated from the rest of my family, and of having that huge closet in my room. Slight pause. Then there was this one night. Tense, nervous tone. I was lying in bed, afraid. We'd watched a scary movie as a family that night. Beat. And then, I heard it. A toy. Rolling over somewhere up in the closet. Sharp inhale. I jumped out of bed and ran to my parents' room. They told me there was no one in my closet, but they saw how scared I was. So they let me sleep in their room that night. Soft, almost casual tone. The next night, I'd kind of forgotten about it. Until I heard it again. Slow, creeping rhythm. The sound of a container of Legos spilling out. Everywhere. Up in the closet. Quicker pace, fear creeping in. Again I ran to my parents' room and told them. My dad was starting to get impatient, but he reluctantly agreed to let me sleep there again. The next day, me and my mom checked the closet, and there it was. A pile of Legos, spilled out on the floor from the container. Thinking tone. I thought, this is proof. Someone was in my closet. But my mom assured me. It simply fell over. Tense, low tone. That night, my dad locked his door. He said he was tired of my nonsense. Quiet, scared tone. I couldn't sleep. I lay there completely still, with my young boy imagination running wild, just waiting for another sound from the closet. It was probably an hour before it happened. Sharp beat, intensity rises. It broke the silence. The sound of the closet door sliding open with force. Soft gasp. The moonlight, shining through my window lit up the figure, standing by my closet door. Suddenly intense. I let out the most horrific, ear-piercing scream you've ever heard. Pure terror swept through my body. A feeling I still remember today. Frantic tone. The figure jumped down from the closet, ran out of my room, and straight out the front door of the house. Softly, shaky tone. My mom ran up in shock. My dad went downstairs trying to catch whoever it was, but he never did. Serious tone. The police never caught the man. Pause, new beat. When I was in 8th grade, I went on a school trip called the Louisiana Tour. We went to different historic sites around South Louisiana. One of the stops was Myrtle's Plantation, which is considered to be one of the most haunted places in the country. There are all kinds of stories about that place. At one point, we were standing in a room as part of a larger group. The tour guide was talking about something. I honestly don't even remember what. Thoughtful, puzzled tone. As I'm standing there, I start to hear this sound, like someone hitting a piano key. After I heard it a couple times, I started to look around. No piano, but I kept hearing it. I asked my friends nearby, "Did you hear that?" They said no. Then I heard it again. "There it is again," I said. They must have heard that, but they just looked at me like I was crazy. Quiet realization. So I went back to scanning the room. Everyone's eyes were on the tour guide, except for one woman. She caught my eye, pointed at me, then at her ear, with a questioning look, and I nodded. She heard it too. Just then, the tour guide starts telling a story about a soldier who had died there, and how he used to play the piano, how guests had reported hearing him playing in the night. Softly, confused tone. I honestly didn't know what to think. I guess I still don't. As we were leaving, I talked to the woman. She said she heard the exact same thing. But her husband and her son, they hadn't heard a thing. Slight pause, change of setting. It was near Halloween. Me and my friends were sitting around, telling ghost stories. One of them said, "I'm going to tell the story of my parents' first date." She didn't like telling it, because it was actually true. But we pushed her. So she began. Casual tone. Her parents had a nice, if awkward, first date. And right around the time they'd say goodnight, her dad suggested they go for a midnight hike up Provo Canyon. Apparently, he knew the place well, since he'd done some rock climbing there. So they drove up, got out of the car, and started hiking, under nothing but starlight. It was a new moon. At some point, he got a bad feeling. The path ahead, it dipped under a cluster of trees. Real dark, and it was getting late. But he ignored it, and pressed on. A minute later, that feeling came back. Stronger. He ignored it again, and walked a bit into the trees. Then, his foot hit something soft, right in the middle of the path. It was too dark to see what it was, and that feeling came back, stronger than ever. He and the woman both agreed. Let's get out of here. Years later, after they were married, they were watching an interview with a serial killer, Ted Bundy. He was asked to describe the closest he ever came to being caught. He talked about a night when he lured a girl into Provo Canyon. He had just killed her. When he heard people coming up the trail, he hid in the trees just in time and watched as some guy walked right into the body. But for some reason, he just turned around and walked away. Beat. That guy was her dad. Slight music shift. My school's library stays open until 2 a.m. for idiots like me, who don't start their essays until the last minute. It's a pretty small building. Most of the books are in the basement area, called the stacks. Here's the quick layout. There's a big staircase that leads down, a vending machine room, and a long hallway with 4 entrances into the stacks. The stacks themselves are 2 big rooms, on opposite sides of the hallway, filled with shelves and study desks. I was there around 11 p.m. last year. The essay I was working on needed a ton of research, so I stayed down in the stacks. Didn't want to keep going up and down. I'd been there for maybe 2 hours. Everyone had left, except one guy, a few desks down from me. I was totally zoned out. I had an 8 a.m. class, and time was running out. I was panicking. So when I started hearing this obnoxious sound, someone flipping through pages fast, making that loud whipping noise, I was pissed. I ignored it at first, thinking they'd stop, but they didn't. After 5 minutes, I had enough. I stood up to tell them to knock it off. Took maybe 3 steps across the room, and it just stopped. I sat back down. Everything went quiet again, for about 10 minutes. Then, it started again, but this time, the sound was louder, like whoever it was had grabbed. Cut off here. Low ambient music continues, quiet tension rising. Irritated tone. A huge book. This time, the boy started to get pissed off too. He stood up, started walking around through the bookshelves, trying to find whoever was doing it. The noise kept going, so I got up too, and we both started looking around. It got really loud now, loud enough that it was obvious where it was coming from. We started walking toward it. Him on one side of the shelves, me on the other. Building suspense. We walked all the way down. Every aisle. No one. Nobody there. We hadn't seen anyone come into the stacks, and we were sitting on the side with the entrances. There was no way someone could have gotten in without us seeing them. Then, the noise stopped again, and we both sort of just slowly walked back to our seats. I figured it was just a fan or something in the other room, and I really needed to finish my essay. So we sat back down. Sudden pause, then uneasy tone. Immediately, the noise started again, but this time, it sounded like it was coming from right next to the guy's chair. Alarmed tone. He shoved his stuff into his bag, looked at me, and just said, this, and took off. I was out of there maybe 5 seconds behind him. Pause, softer tone. I still won't go back into the stacks at night, even when there are other people down there. This happened when I still had my fishing boat. It's a horrifying experience, one that will never leave us. Me and my wife had departed from the East Coast for a 2-day fishing trip in the North Atlantic. The first day and night were normal. We got a decent catch. That night, we played cards, listened to music. It was a good time, up until the next night. Ominous tone. After a slow day at sea, we were inside playing cards again. This time, without the music. That's when we heard it. The sound of a boat motor. We rushed outside, and there was this man, piloting a crappy old motorboat, with absolutely no lights on. He'd stopped, right in front of our bow. Middle-aged guy, beard, baseball cap. I went up closer and asked, "Hey, do you need help?" He asked if we had any spare gasoline. I apologized, Told him we didn't. Then I asked, "Are you low on fuel? Do you need a ride back to shore?" But he just said no. Said he had plenty of gas. Tense pause. Which left this awkward silence. As me and my wife looked at each other, wondering why he asked in the first place. Then, he just stared at me, blankly. The only reason I could see him at all was because of the small deck light on the front of our boat. Everywhere else, total darkness. Finally, he broke the silence and asked, "Did you have a good catch today?" I told him no, still trying to be polite, even though every bone in my body said something was wrong. I asked him how he was getting around in the dark, but he just gave this little chuckle, like I'd made a joke. Maybe he misheard me. Long pause. Then he turned his little motorboat around. The last thing he said was, "Nice meeting you folks." And he disappeared into the blackness. Me and my wife stood there in silence. She whispered that she was afraid he was going to rob us. Now, as a fisherman, you run into all kinds of people out on the water. Conversations happen. People drift by. But something about that guy, it was off. The fact that he came up to us so late at night, so far from shore, and alone in that boat, it didn't sit right. We turned off our lights and sailed a bit north, just to be sure he wouldn't find us again. Call me paranoid. Low, sharp ambient swell. Later that night, probably around 2 in the morning, I woke up to the disturbing, ear-piercing scream of my wife. I shot up from my L-shaped position on the bed and saw a man standing at the edge of our bed. I lunged at him, but he was out of the cabin before I could even get across the room. Then I heard it, the same motorboat, starting up and speeding away into the darkness. We sailed straight back to shore that night. We reported the man right away, but of course, nothing ever came of it. We never found out what he wanted or what he was planning, but it still gives me nightmares. To this day, pause, shift in tone, quieter. The way my bedroom was laid out. Across the room from my bed, there's this little alcove that doesn't get any light. Because of the closet, the angle blocks the ceiling light, and even the ambient light from outside. It stays completely dark. I was in 4th year of high school, trying to sleep, but I couldn't. You know that feeling, like someone staring at you? That's what I felt. And not just that, I felt like whatever was watching me wanted to hurt me. Like, really hurt me. I opened my eyes, and immediately, my gaze locked on that dark corner. There was a hazy, darker shape in it. Goosebumps shot up my arms. But I told myself, it's nothing. Just my imagination. I closed my eyes again, trying to force myself to sleep. But that feeling, that stare, it wouldn't go away. Then, sharp creak. The sound of the floor creaking, like someone stepping, putting pressure down. I opened my eyes again. That shadow thing. Now it was in the opposite corner. All my instincts, everything in me, screamed danger. I grabbed my pillow and blanket, threw them over my head, and cried myself to sleep, just praying that it wouldn't come closer. And I know I didn't imagine it, or dream it. I still get chills when I think about it. To this day, soft atmospheric tone continues. Wind and low thunder rumble in background. Somber, slow tone. Groggy. She told me she hadn't left the tent either. That's when I got goosebumps all over. The realization hit me like a brick. Someone actually came up to our tent, unzipped it, and looked inside. Pause, quiet, haunted, a stranger. For all I know, some kind of psycho. I don't even really remember if my parents took me seriously, or if they brushed it off. Maybe I just don't want to remember. But what I do remember is that I didn't sleep a single minute that night. Pause, scene shift, calm but eerie music enters. My parents were on their honeymoon, Key West. They arrived at the hotel, ready to check in. But when they did, they were told their room was non-smoking. My dad's a smoker, so they asked to switch rooms. The hotel agreed. They got their new key and went up. As soon as they stepped off the elevator, the smell of fresh paint hit them, hard. Down the hall, there was a man painting a wall, all his supplies laid out neatly around him. My parents walked by, greeted him casually, but he didn't react. Not even a glance. Just kept painting. When they got to their new room, the paint smell was even worse. Unbearable. So they went back to the front desk to switch again. When they explained the smell, the hotel attendant looked confused and told them there were no scheduled paint jobs on that floor. Still, she agreed to move them. They returned to the floor to grab their bags. And the painter? Gone. All the supplies gone. Completely cleaned up. In 10 minutes. And the smell? Gone too. Now my parents aren't the superstitious type, but they were officially freaked out. The next morning, on their way to breakfast, they overheard a tour guide speaking to a group. They tuned in when he mentioned the same floor they'd originally been assigned to. Apparently, a long time ago, a painter had died on that floor. He fell down the elevator shaft. Pause, breathy tone. They still don't know what happened, but they never forgot it. Music transitions softly, tension rising. This next one didn't happen to me, but to my cousin, Nikki, and it still freaks me out. Pause. It was a Friday night. Nikki was on Skype with his girlfriend, Sam. About 1 a.m. She was asking him to come over, stay the night, but he didn't feel like driving that late. During the call, Nikki noticed something. The closet door behind Sam was open a crack. He pointed it out. Sam turned around, looked. They both just ignored it. Probably nothing. Pause, growing tension. Maybe 30 minutes later, the closet creaked open a little more. Nikki noticed, told her little brother must be hiding in there. She denied it, said the window was open. Maybe it was a draft. Another half hour goes by, then the closet door completely opens, and someone steps out, walks out of Sam's bedroom. Pause, urgent, sharp. Sam didn't seem to notice. But Nikki freaked. He told her again, your brother's in your closet. But then, she told him something that chilled him to the bone. She was home alone. That night, Nikki snapped, yelling into the screen, lock your door, call the police. I'm coming over right now. Sam finally started to register what was happening. She turned toward the door and let out a blood-curdling scream, slammed it shut, locked it. Nikki was already in his car, calling 911, racing over. When he got there, the front door was wide open. He ran in, straight to her bedroom, knocked on the door, shouting, it's me. No answer. Pause, heavy. When the police arrived, they had to break down the door. They found Sam, curled up in the corner, in complete shock. She later told them she saw someone standing face to face with her, right at the door, before she slammed it shut. It was a dark, stormy night. The kind I love. Thunder, lightning, roaring skies. I was home alone, my dad working the night shift. So I stayed up late, watching movies. After finishing Forrest Gump for probably the 100th time, I decided 2 a.m. was finally time to crash. I've always loved sleeping during storms. The sound of rain, distant thunder, something comforting about it. But then, sudden, sharp tone. I heard something hit my window. Pause, questioning tone. Not rain, not wind. Something. I didn't think much of it. Put my head back down. Seconds later, another hit. This time, it sounded like a rock. My heart started racing. It couldn't be my dad. He would have called. Then another rock. I froze in bed. Didn't want to look out. But whoever was out there, they had to know I was up. I just turned off the TV. They could have seen the glow through the window. I figured, if I ignored it, they'd go away. Another rock. Then another. Faster now. The rain started to let up. And that's when I heard it. A truck engine, idling, down the street. Then, a loud thud. Against the window. That was it. I jumped out of bed, ran downstairs, heading to the phone. But as I passed the front door, I saw something. Through the little glass window at the top of the door. A face. Staring in. Smiling. Beat. Rising panic. I sprinted to the kitchen. Grabbed the phone. Called the police. They said an officer was nearby. Help would be there soon. But whoever was at the door, they started jiggling the handle. Then, ramming the door. Over and over. I grabbed a knife. Shouted that the police were on their way. Ran back upstairs. After a minute, it stopped. No more rocks. No more door. No more truck. Then, I heard it. The engine. Driving off. A few minutes later, sirens. The doorbell. I told the officer everything. I described the face as best I could. But I couldn't give anything about the vehicle. I still regret it. Not looking out that window. Not getting the license plate. But I was scared. There was never enough information for the police to catch them. I don't know if they were planning to rob me, or if they had something much worse in mind. But I know one thing. That night changed me.